One of the nice things that Aspire supports is the ability to machine a model that's been created somewhere else, in an external modelling application, or perhaps from scan data. So if you scan a real model and produce a triangle mesh from that. So the way we go about using that sort of data is to create the file still that you're going to bring the data into. So we just create a normal new model as you would do for any design, and I'm just crucially just going to set up at this point the real size of our design. So I'm going to make a small object that's going to be 6 inches by 3 inches, and we'll just allow a 2-inch thickness at this stage. So create that model, and then across in the modeling tab we have the option to import components or 3D models. So if I select that option, you can find that we support a whole variety of 3D model file formats, including STL, which is the one I'm going to use in this case, the stereolithography file. So I'm going to import this model, a Porsche car, that's just a freely available model of a Porsche. And so this is the import dialog then. So what we need to do now is we're kind of in a separate mode for the moment, where we can decide how we want to convert this model into the machinable model that we're going to use within Aspire. And in particular, one of the important things to do here is to decide how to orientate that model. Now for this demonstration, I'm going to concentrate on just this very last feature here, create both sides. And the idea behind this extra little checkbox here is that it simplifies the process of taking a model like this, which is true 3D and therefore has detail all over it, and splitting it into two components that we could then machine using a conventional 3-axis machine. And the reason we're going to get the two components is the usual process would be that you would cut the top part of your model in a piece of material, then you would just turn manually the piece of material over, or use an indexer in your machine to turn the piece of material over, and then machine an exactly registered bottom half of the model. So what you end up with is the full 3D result machined in 2 goes from the 2 orientations. So what we want to do in this case is find a nice split line for this model, so that if we're going to machine it from the top and the bottom, that we will find the location where we can get the most detail out of those 2 cut passes. And for me, I think it seems quite clear for this design that it's going to be around about this bumper mark here, because remember, when you're machining from the bottom, you won't be able to see anything effectively that's undercut, because your machining tool will be coming straight in from the bottom, and similarly you won't be able to see anything undercutting when you cut straight from the top. So our best bet for this design is around about here, and this is what we can use the slider bar here to set the position of the model. So I've set it just to start with in the middle, but we can now use this slider bar to find the exact location that we're after. So that looks about right. Okay, so that's effectively the widest part of the model. Now I need to be sure to scale this model so it fits in that material block that we created earlier on. So if you recall, our design was 6 inches by 3 inches. So if I set here the size in Y to be 3, I can see that that's still 6 inches is going to be a little bit too long. So I'll force that one instead to be 6. And in fact, if we go to 5.8, we'll get a little bit of boundary around it. So I apply that, it'll shrink the model initially, and I just need to reset the 3D view there by choosing my viewing orientation. And we're pretty much good to go. So I've got machining from the top set, so we're viewing down from the top. But crucially, I'm going to select this Create Both Sides option, which is available in Aspire 3.5 and later. And when I click OK, that means it's going to just take that model and do both the top and the bottom. So it's going to take the 2 different directions and automate the process of putting those together. And now I'm back into Aspire. It looks a bit odd to start with, because what I've got is 2 components up here, and at the moment they're both being added on top of one another, which is the default setting. But let's just turn one off and we should get a better view of what's going on. So now we've got the top half of our model, and if I turn the top half off and put the bottom on, you can see that exactly registered with that from the original STL file is the matching bottom half. So hopefully you can see that by setting these up now independently, we can cut across to our toolpaths and create a standard 3-axis toolpath to cut this top part, and then a second one to cut the bottom half of the material. Then we output those toolpaths independently, and halfway through, having run the first toolpath, we can just turn our material block over and continue cutting with the second toolpath, and we'll end up with as close an approximation to this 3D model as we can achieve with 2 3-axis toolpaths.